Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Championship Leadership Podcast. We have Aly Webster and Liberte Austin, two very special guests that I got the opportunity to meet while we were filming Surviving Mann reality TV show. What's up, guys? Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
How are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Doing great. So I reached out to these two shortly after we finished up filming, and we can't give a lot of details on the show because it hasn't come out yet. Depending on when you're listening to this, it's June 4th in 2021, but should be coming out here hopefully around July 4th of this year. Excited to see that, but had the opportunity to get to know these folks, got to know all of the 32 contestants fairly well over 6 full days. Incredible experience, yeah?
Absolutely.
What was the what was like the best experience for you, or what was the maybe the biggest moments or part, if there was one for you? I know there were many of them. It was we did so many different things. We got to meet so many different people, but what was something that really stands out to you guys going through this experience?
Liberte?
For me, it was the heights, overcoming the fear of heights.
Yeah.
Because I knew before the show, I had gone to like a high rope course because I'm terrified of heights. Like I can't stand in, a high building and look out the window because I want to throw up. So I knew that was going to be bad.
Yeah.
But overcoming that, like at the end of the show, I really feel like now I want to pursue spending more time doing high rope and rappelling and things like that.
Yeah.
So that was the coolest part for me, for sure.
And you did awesome at it, by the way. We all ended up together on the tower, I believe, right? When we were doing the rappelling.
Yeah, and adding to that, I have to say that was definitely mine too. And you were actually like, obviously everyone will see that. I was like constantly like crying to you about how scared I was to go off. But that was my experience too. And I will say Liberte going first, maybe I think all 5 of us up there, 6 of us up there motivated to go. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. To see you guys go through it, because I knew, because you talked about how afraid you were, you're pretty open about it. And then to go and do it and crush it was awesome. And because I wasn't really excited about it. I haven't done a lot of it myself either. So so you guys led the way there. And it's funny you said that, Liberte, because I was kind of came out of that same way. I was like, once you do it, it's like, yeah, that's not nearly as bad, number one, as we play it up to be. And then it also kind of made me want to do the same thing, do some more rock climbing and all this type of stuff, because it's actually kind of fun once you get settled into it. So before we get too much further, I definitely do want to come to each one of you. And if you could just kind of introduce yourself and, whatever way you want to take this, like kind of give us an intro of who you are and the path you've taken to be where you are today and what it is that you are up to today. We'll start with you, Aly.
Thanks for having me, first of all. So I do a lot of different random things. I actually own an animal rescue that I coaxed Liberte into fostering for me after the show, which I just think is so awesome and special to me. But I own a nonprofit dog rescue. I work full-time actually in retirement sales. So I do like retirement plans for small businesses.
Okay.
But I also have been into guns for a while. I'm an NRA instructor, USCCA instructor, but that's kind of the quick overview with me in my life. And I'm a big supporter of, women getting into shooting firearms, because I live in a very conservative state. I mean, opposite of conservative, that was more supposed to be sarcasm, but, a lot of people in Massachusetts aren't big guns people, and they have different views than some of us. So for me, with all the control on firearms and stuff, it's difficult to own some of the firearms and get the experiences that I want with them. So it's hard to live in the state sometimes, but yeah.
Have you lived in that area your entire life?
So I grew up in Maine for the first 18 years of my life, and then I went to college in Massachusetts, and I love Massachusetts. I've stayed here, since I graduated. But yeah, so.
Good, cool. What about you, Liberte?
So I live in Texas, the greatest country in the world.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm a paralegal. I work full-time in the firearms industry. Well, really the self-defense industry. I work for a company called US Law Shield, and we specialize in defending people who defend themselves. So that's really what I do full-time, aside from also being a firearms instructor, is just like Aly, trying to, encourage women especially to defend themselves and to teach them. So also as part of teaching them is educating them on the laws and things like that, as to what the repercussions are and what to watch out for, especially living in like kind of times we live in now with red flag laws and everything else. So we need that defense more than ever, to be legally protected. So that's what I do. I also have an org as well called Defend the Badge, and we basically provide equipment and for law enforcement for cities that have been defunded. So yeah.
When did you
That's
start
very
that?
cool.
Yeah, I started that with my best friend. My partner is Sarah Rodriguez. We started that org towards the end of last year. And so we've been, slowly working on it. As soon as we launched it, as you know, there was like a full-on assault on police officers in the news and media. And so changing that image for police officers right now is our challenge, because we have to reach out to the communities and bridge that gap where we have to make people understand that these police officers, some of the ones that are, I won't say all the ones that are in the news, because some of those are just very bad cases, but for the most part, these police officers don't have equipment. They have to purchase their own equipment. They have to purchase their bulletproof vests, which are very expensive.
Really?
And nobody really knows that. We think the city's paying for these things for these cops, taser guns, pepper spray, simunitions, non-lethals, all those things come out of the police officers' pockets because the budgets don't allow for it. So yeah, and so we might get more training than police officers get, because not only that, but they have restrictions on ammo as well. They have to go get their own training on their salaries. So a lot of people don't know that. So I think by educating the community and letting them know, hey, these police officers need training. They need specialized training to overcome the challenges they face day to day.
Mhm.
So that's really my biggest mission right now, is working on that project. And like I said, it's an uphill battle because in the media, they're being attacked every single day. So if you support law enforcement, you are a part of the group that gets attacked for that as well.
Right.
So.
No doubt. Yeah. Crazy times we're living in. I didn't know that. So yeah, thank you for that's crazy. I had no idea actually. So that's insane actually. And
I had one police officer that I spoke to. He said, as a rookie coming, fresh out of the academy, first of all, he paid for his own academy. Okay. He paid for his own classes to become a police officer, right? They didn't reimburse him for that. He comes out of there making $14.50 an hour. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And then he has to buy his own bulletproof vest, his own everything. He said it was kind of like, kind of embarrassed by it. He's like, I'm not going to lie to you. My mom had to buy me this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that is a huge problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
If these law enforcement officers are purchasing that for themselves. So.
Wow. Well, thank you for starting that up. That's, I didn't realize the need was where it is. I want to put you guys on the spot real quick, and then we'll kind of get a little bit more into what it is that you guys are up to and how you've gotten into being firearms advocates and instructors, and especially for women as yourself. But championship leadership is the name of the podcast. So I want you to give me a quick react. What, when you hear championship leadership, and again, we'll come to you, Aly, and then Liberte, what comes to mind for you when you hear championship leadership?
Success, and kind of working with some of the best leaders in the industries of all kinds, because I think that there's, champions in every kind of industry. And I think leadership obviously is, the top champions in every different segment. Yeah. That's what I think of when I hear that.
Awesome. Thank you. What about you, Liberte?
I have to say that kind of give a little shout out to Dawn, because when I think of championship leadership, I think of the leadership that they exhibited. Tim and Randy, just awesome people. I just in awe of how humble those men are, and just
Right.
how they led us with such compassion, kindness, but still encouraging us to just push ourselves past our limits.
Yep.
So just to tie it back to what we just learned, because I really do feel like those are incredible men that have impacted my life.
Yes, absolutely. And so for the listeners, yeah, Don Mann, a former Navy SEAL and SEAL Team 6 member, incredible guy. And then Randy Couture, who was I believe a 6-time UFC world champion, retired now. But yeah, I've been saying the same thing, just super humble, very, very high servant leaders, like just down to earth. But also, yeah, carried a very strong presence and did an incredible job. Like, I don't know if they slept over those 6-7 days. Didn't look like they were tired ever. It was just amazing to watch them. Knowing how much energy that they had to put through the planning and the execution of filming over 6 days like that was incredible. So yeah, definitely championship leaders for sure.
I'm going to add something to that. So one thing is that was kind of crazy to me is we were riding back with Don in the car one day, and he was giving us a couple just random little stories. And another time was before dinner. And I won't even elaborate on those stories, but the point of it was that he had such a crazy past, and he has all these things he could talk about, that would make people like in awe.
Yeah.
And I think my respect grew for him even more by hearing these little stories that he didn't even care to elaborate on, which just shows that he's like very much a champion and doesn't need the publicity and to talk about his character. He doesn't need to defend himself. And the same thing goes for Randy too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Don's been on the show, and so I've gotten to know him. If you haven't checked out his book, I don't think that hardly anyone even knew that he had written a book, or he's written multiple books, but he's a New York Times bestseller as well. And of course, he would never talk about any of this, but he's got a book called Inside SEAL Team 6, and he shares a fair amount of the story, and I'm sure a fair amount of it that he doesn't. But there was a comment by someone, I won't name the contestant's name, but almost questioning what he had ever done. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, you really don't know who Don Mann is, obviously, because the guy, he was first of all, he was a member of U.S. Navy SEALs, and then also SEAL Team 6. And he's accomplished a great amount. But those types of people, like you say, aren't the ones that are going to sit and tell you all about it, right? That's for me is a big part of championship leadership.
Because they don't do it for glory.
Yeah, absolutely.
They do it because they're just heroes. It's in their DNA.
Yeah.
And that was an eye-opening experience for me. And it made me step back a lot and think about what people say about themselves and what people don't say about themselves.
Yeah.
And right. Exactly what you just said too, Liberty.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, very cool. Well, let's switch gears back to you guys. So you both obviously have a lot in common. Did you guys know each other before the show?
No.
But now you guys are like besties?
Yeah.
So I told Alyson, I learned the meaning of what it means to be attached at the hip. You always hear that, oh, they're attached at the hip. We were literally attached at the hip.
Yes.
The whole time.
Yeah, you were, but that's awesome. And, it's always interesting because we did some Zoom meetings, and, there's posturing, and there's some people that are in it totally to win and compete, which is, I showed up, I wanted to win and compete too, but there's a gestation period, I suppose, of kind of getting to know certain people, and I didn't really get a chance to know everyone. I got to know you guys a little bit probably towards the middle of the week, which was awesome, which was great, and I'm really glad that I was able to do that. But yeah, how did you guys find out about the show, and how did you become part of it? Were you guys
ready?
Yeah, so with me, I decided to join when I first got the invite. At first I was like, there's no way I'm not going to be able to do this, because I was not like physically in shape for after COVID. I had just hurt my back a couple years ago, and I was like out of the game for a while. So I was like, there's no way. I kind of laughed at it, but it sounded really cool. My husband actually convinced me to do it.
Yeah.
And after I saw who Dawn was, and I was like, yeah, I have to do this. There's no way that I cannot do this. Like, it'll be just so cool to be a part of this because of who is associated with it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I also got an email, but I'm always up for stuff. And I always try to do things, even if it, you know, I'm not sure how it is. I actually looked into them a lot. My family has a lot of history at West Point.
Okay.
And so I actually reached out to my cousin and was like, can you do some background searching, you know, make sure this is all like legit and safe for me to go out and fly by myself and do this. But yeah, and it was awesome. And going off that, like when we went to do the pre-webinars with like meeting people, it made it a lot more, you know, exciting and real. And that's when I started talking to Liberty. And yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Liberty, I probably wouldn't have made it to the show. I mean, let's be honest, I probably would have, but it would have been a completely different experience for me.
Yeah, totally. Right. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I didn't, yeah, I kind of had the same thing. I was like, is this real? Like, I was kind of surprised to get an email to say, hey, you're part of the cut, to see it. But I was just like, what other time would I have an opportunity to do an experience like this? So, yeah. See,
I have to add one more thing, something I think is interesting. So we obviously know a lot of people in a lot of different industries, right? Or even just the three of us, we have some connections and we know people in different industries on social media alone, right? I've heard from a lot of different people who were either approached about the show or heard about the show and never did it. And I honestly sit back, and I think I told you this already. I feel bad. Like, they missed out on one of the most amazing experiences. And like, I can't even explain everything I learned from that show, or just about life in general. And I'm like, I feel bad. You're never going to get a chance to do something like that. And even if they got on a show down the road, and if there's a bunch of seasons, we were the first ones. Like, it was completely, we had no idea what to expect.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. And it turned out being a little bit different than I think probably we even thought. I think that's natural too. You know, things change. You know, kind of figured that we were going to be voted off the island, and it didn't happen that way. And it, you know, all contestants were there through the finish, and you know, vying for, you know, to get us, you know, to win first, or to finish as high as you could. And to be honest, some people I don't even think cared about that, and just loved being a part of the team and the experience, which was awesome as well. But yeah, you know, that's natural though, right? That's part of being, I think that's part of, if you talk about championship leadership too, like championship leaders are willing to when those opportunities arise, to step up. It doesn't mean that we didn't have the same thoughts going through our head of, you know, are we good enough for this?
Right.
Should we do this? You know, you
Are we
start
prepared for it?
Of like, what if this happens? You know, the first thing when I told my daughter, she was like, the first thought she had was, don't embarrass us. Like, don't embarrass me. She's a junior high, you know. Like, she's like, you better not embarrass me. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't even think about that till now. I was thinking about winning this thing. Now I'm thinking about, what if I mess up, right? I'm like, thanks, Nina. Appreciate it.
I think people watching the show, there's going to be some of our fellow contestant friends who are probably sitting here like, please don't show the episode when I did this or said this.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
But,
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, yes.
But I think some of those people that we might be thinking about also developed and changed over the week. And I think that shows a lot of progress.
I agree. You know, I'm a little bit skeptical of why they changed their tune, but you know,
what?
I'm a little skeptical of the driving factor behind why some of them might have changed their tune, but either way, yeah, no, I agree. It was interesting. It'd be interesting to see the story that they tell. You know, having been through this, right? Because I don't watch a lot of reality TV, but I watched it, and you only know the story that they tell you, and then the people that have been in it, they're like, what? That's not how it happened at all. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But you guys get to kind of go and talk about that as you'll be a part of the aftermath show, right? So I have a feeling you guys are going to be kind of talking about some of that, maybe.
Right.
Is that kind of how that has been put out to you guys, is to the experience as it's going, or maybe they'll show clips of certain things and then you guys will come in and talk about it?
Yeah, I think there's some things that even you don't know about yet, that happened for a few days, and I'm wondering when that came out. And I guess I could tell you now.
I heard
there was,
a little
you
birdie
hear?
about it, but maybe you're talking about
Did you
something.
hear?
I heard that there was some microphones placed on some people,
A few people?
maybe like you guys.
Wait, how did you hear about this?
um, One of the guys that that we stayed with at the VRBO was invited to a party at the end of the final day, and I guess Bob told him about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, here's the funny story. The first time I was mic'd up was when we're walking up the stairs to the plank.
Oh,
And I had to wear the water pack. And then I start crying within 5 minutes of being
so you're mic'd up.
So
when
the
we're
whole
up to
time
the
that I'm
top?
talking to you, I'm mic'd up. The good thing is you didn't say anything.
Well, at least I didn't say anything bad. Yeah.
Nothing bad. Nothing bad. It was almost too fake. I thought you and everyone else knew because you were all way too nice. Like way too supportive. It was funny.
I had no idea. I had no clue. When I heard about that, I was like, man, I hope I didn't, because we all say things when we don't know, everyone says something that maybe they wouldn't always say in front of someone else, right?
No, everyone was really good. The only time that I messed up, I went into the bathroom with Liberty and I forgot that. And when I'm not mic'd up, we talk about life. And I went into the bathroom with Liberty and I forgot I was mic'd up for like 3 seconds. And I started like complaining about life, nothing to do with the show. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Remember?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. And I knew at some point that she was mic'd. And so
we had to stop being friends.
Yeah, it was funny because we're so used to talking to each other about everything. And it was torture when they mic'd her because I couldn't talk to her anymore.
I'd be like,
were you the only one that was mic'd up?
I think so, yeah.
As far as we know.
So you're gonna be like the villain for some people.
No, there was, all honesty, I don't think I got anything bad. Everyone was pretty darn good.
No, I mean, I don't think there was really all that much.
And they wouldn't talk crap if I went over because I don't think I'm a person that people would come talk bad about to me.
To be honest, I don't think there was a lot.
And there were some conversations and I didn't want to be like, I didn't want to get involved. So I didn't feed into it. I just kind of walked away, which they were probably not happy about, but they didn't want anyone to look bad.
Yeah, no, I didn't get that feel either.
Yeah, they weren't encouraging.
Actually, opposite feel. Yeah, like they really want everybody to come across good, which why wouldn't you? So yeah.
Right.
Although sometimes, a little controversy does make good TV.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Well, talk a little bit more about you guys and your background. How did you guys get into? Because I'll be honest, like I was in the military. I grew up hunting, but firearms hasn't been a big part of my life. I like to shoot. I definitely believe in the Second Amendment. That we should all have the right to bear arms. And now more probably with the show and maybe a little bit before, I've seen more of the importance of training and that we should all probably have some more knowledge and experience inside of that world. But what brought you guys into that world and made you be kind of a light post for that and taking a stand, being leaders, instructors, and spreading the message of the Second Amendment and gun training and firearms training, and helping with the police force and all that you guys are up to and doing. How'd you get here?
So for me, I always get, this is hard for me to talk about. I'm trying to talk about it less nowadays because I feel like I keep reliving it by, speaking life into it every time, but I am the survivor of a violent crime. And that happened to me when I was very young. And so for me, finding firearms and hunting and all of that was really a way for me to get my power back. For years, I spent years, on medication and, depressed, drinking, everything, like you name it. I was just really not coping with life well, because after you get terrorized and someone threatens to take your life away from you, you basically, you can take one of two paths. And I talk about this a lot, but one, you become the victim mentality and you can go into that negative cycle that I was in, where it was just doing anything and everything to numb myself. And the other side of that is that you become a warrior and you stand up and you find the thing that makes you powerful again, or at least that sense of security is returned to you. And for me, picking up a firearm for the first time was truly better than any therapy could have ever gotten. So for me, it's my life. Like, I work in it full time. It's everything to me. I am 100% always thinking about where my firearm is. When I have to travel without my gun, like when I went to Vegas, I actually didn't take a firearm with me.
Yeah.
That's really traumatizing for me. It causes me to have a lot of, like, getting up at night, even if I'm in a hotel. It's just something that has become part of me. So I'm not even saying that I'm like a great shooter or I'm a professional shooter, anything like that. It's more of the sense of like a security blanket for me.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's for me, my journey. And that's why it's so important to me to tell women about defending themselves.
Yeah.
After, my incident, in my years of recovery, I spent years counseling women, in advocacy groups where after they got raped, they'd go to the hospital and then somebody goes and shows up by their bedside. And so I was the person that would do that. And it's a similar thing that I saw where it just strips you of your power and you feel helpless and worthless. And you can spend your entire life looking for worth again, and never find it. Yeah. So it's a very important message. And I'm attracted to people like Aly, who are out there doing what she does and also advocating for it to women, because it's so important, because most women never find their worth again from incidents like this. And it's so important that women that are empowered by self-defense go and teach the other women, like, hey, you can do this too. Mm-hmm. This could be you. You could be doing this. You could be taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's all they need to hear it.
Sure.
They just need somebody to come out and say that to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I did not know that part of your story, and it's important, right, to have people like yourself to help those that have gone through those experiences. Because if you don't, who will? And like you say, sometimes just it's hearing the right few words from the right person at the right time. It's all it takes to snap them, to help them get back on the path. It's powerful.
When I'm letting my dog out, she sees a squirrel.
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
I've spent time, with women who basically just are in denial about what could happen to them. And so I live in a life of what ifs, because I've gone through it. I survived something, actually, lived through a stranger breaking into my home, kind of situation, the worst case scenario you can think of. I've gone through that. Telling a woman, especially young women, this could happen to you, they live in a delusion that it won't happen to them, right? And you have, I think you mentioned you have a daughter, Nate.
Daughters, yeah. So
especially telling your daughters, this may sound horrible, but with my daughter, she's been watching Forensic Files since she was 6 years old. I make sure I tell her, this can happen to you. Watch your back. And she literally, that's what she does. She goes places, she sees suspicious people. She's looking around. She says, Mom, I don't like the way that man looked at me. I'm like, perfect. I'm turning you into a paranoid just like me. And I love it. Yeah. Because there's no way to tell someone unless you've gone through it. You don't understand. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. As a parent, obviously, I don't like to live in the world of worst case scenarios, but I definitely go there with my daughters, my kids. Definitely that protective, and so those are definitely conversations that I need to have. They're hard conversations to have, but important ones, I believe. So yeah, thank you for that reminder for sure. Aly, what about you? How did you get to become a part of this world and where you're at?
So my story is a little different. So I grew up in Maine, and everyone, in Maine can own guns, and there's a lot of hunting and stuff there. I've never been into hunting. I'm a big animal person. But when I moved out of state, it was to get away from my life. My family's been my whole life. So I kind of came here to be independent and, kind of traveling and exploring life on my own. But I got into competing in my early 20s. And I think that with social media, a lot of people took me as more of a girly person who doesn't do XYZ and, you know, should stay away from manly things. And I feel like a lot of the vibe I was getting was that shooting's a guy thing. But for me, I was petrified of guns growing up, petrified. So for me, it was about getting into something that I'm scared of and overcoming it. And that's where the guns started for me was, you know, I'm petrified to hold this gun and to be around a gun or if someone owns a gun. So I worked on doing that and then I got into it and I loved it. And then I realized that, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, it's not a men's sport. It's not just a guy's thing, kind of like going to what Liberty said, you do need to protect your home and you don't know what's going to happen. So it's over time, it's kind of evolved. And I've had a lot of people, you know, reach out to me, men and women, but mostly women really being like, I want to do this, but, you know, my husband told me that, you know, I shouldn't go anywhere near firearms or I shouldn't get into this. And so I think over time, it's really motivated me to teach people like, you know, yes, I'm a girly girl. Yes, I used to be like, it's not just about that. There's a bigger picture. And also for me, I don't like people telling me what I can and can't do. Sometimes I don't like people telling me what I can own in Massachusetts and what I can't. Yeah. It's our right. And so it's a big thing for me. So if someone tells you you shouldn't be into shooting, I think you should go out and try it. And if there's a gun lying around and you have 2 kids here and it's a fully loaded like revolver, like okay, so what do you want to do? Do you want to know how to protect you and your family? Or do you want to call the police and ask them to do it? I don't know. For me, it's more like just doing something and educating yourself and learning.
Awesome. Yeah, we need more people like yourselves out there to continue to spread that message. And I think it's powerful just because of some of the things you said, the stereotypes, I suppose, around firearms is that it's, you know, a men only thing, and it's obviously not. And when I see you guys on social media, wherever it is, and what you do presenting that, it's empowering. You know,
we are the new face of firearm owners.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like you said, it's my daughters. I'll be able to point them to great role models like you guys as well. So I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, my wife, I can relate because my wife is like, again, I've never been a big gun guy from the standpoint of like, it doesn't consume my life. Like it seems like it does for some of the contestants. Mm-hmm. And I think, which is cool. It's awesome because we all have our own thing. But I've always been like, it's important to educate our kids and to have them shoot and maybe even to hunt. And my wife is always like, the second you would bring it up, she like almost gets into the freeze up. You know, it's just like she goes to, you know, it's not safe. What if they do something wrong? You know, because she's working with kids. But I'm like, well, if we do it correctly and we teach them and we train them, do it properly. And so I did get, to her credit, we were able to get my kids out and with a good friend of mine up north where we have some land and you know, talked them through it. We're very safe with them and they got their first experience with guns and got to shoot some different weapons. It was fun. It was a good experience. So it was a good start. I didn't know that it was ever going to happen, but
so does your wife like to shoot now, or is more comfortable?
Not necessarily, but you know, she did come out of it feeling good and liked how it went. So good. I would like to do more of that. You know, for all the reasons we've talked about here. So many important reasons to be familiar and to know what you're doing and to be able to do it safely. You know, worst case scenario.
It's so important. Yeah. And like one of the things that I do with new women shooters that I teach, especially like with my kids, I want them to know how to shoot a lot of different types of guns. So I'll do a thing where I'll put like 4 different types of guns out and then have them learn, because sometimes a woman will be given a gun, and I've had this happen quite a bit, like a revolver by her dad or something. And then that's like the one gun that she has. Yeah. But if you're in a situation where you're taken or you're kidnapped or someone's in your home and you have an opportunity to grab their gun and you don't know how to use it, you're stuck, you know? And so I do highly encourage like the teaching of all different types of guns, shotguns, rifles, everything. I got to know.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we did actually, my friend had a number of different weapons. So we had probably 3 or 4. So yeah, that's a great point. I know I do want to respect your time because I think we're probably going a little bit over our time, but that's what happens when you have good conversation. As we start to wrap this up, like what is, you know, next short-term vision for you guys and what you're up to in your life. Championship leaders have great vision, encouraged to take action on that. So what's your vision for what you're doing in life and where you want to go, maybe just short-term, like the next 5 years?
Aly.
Yeah, good. Short term is we're going to Tampa, so that'll be awesome. So I'm excited about that. I want to get into competitive shooting. I'm getting out of competitive bodybuilding now, so I want to get into competitive 3-gun. It's my goal. So that's going to take a lot from me because you guys will know I'm not, and you'll see on the show too that I'm not the best shooter. So that's my next goal in terms of that. I also really just want to eventually settle down and have a family. I'm looking to buy a house. We keep losing everything. We've lost 5 offers in the last like month and a half.
Tight market right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that. And I want to make a trip to Texas, actually, where my rescue is, where we get all our dogs, and meet my fosters. And just that's kind of my personal goals.
Oh, you get your dogs from Texas. I didn't know that. That's cool.
They all come from Texas, and then they come up to New England.
My mom, by the way, and my sister are huge dog people. Like, they show dogs, they breed dogs, and we've had 10, 20 dogs at one time, probably since I was a little kid. But
What breed do they do?
mostly American Water Spaniels and
Okay, cool.
hunting dogs.
Aly's an excellent dog mom. And the other day I sent her a picture that I got one of her puppies into my pool.
Yeah.
And her reaction was hilarious.
Well, they could get sick. There's like chlorine in there.
They're learning to swim. They're
like
Surviving Man dogs.
They're babies. They're like 7-week-old puppies, and she has them swimming.
Texas. They're Texans. Okay.
I like it. That's awesome. Well, that's cool. Competitive shooting. I kind of came out of this experience kind of the same way.
Yeah, 3-gun. We could do some matches together.
That would be a blast. I love it. What about you, Liberty?
So for me, just keep hammering at what I do at US Law Shield with just protecting people's rights and doing that. And then also just growing Defend the Badge, is really getting that message out is my goal.
Yeah. On your profile, it says you're a law student?
Yeah. So I actually just went back to school recently to finish up because I'm a paralegal by trade, but I stopped there. And so now I do want to go ahead and get my law degree because I've been in the legal industry for a really long time. So yeah.
Very cool. All right, well, let's
add that to the list of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure someday I'm going to need a good lawyer. So I can't wait to.
Hopefully you don't.
Hopefully you don't.
Nowadays, it seems like.
That's true.
What's a final thought to wrap this up on Surviving Mann? Like anything that comes to mind, or a lesson that you learned from the experience that was powerful that you could share with everybody?
So for me, I've been doing push-ups every day, 25.
Yeah.
Okay,
have you really?
Those kicked my
regular ones or girly ones?
Girl ones. Okay, stop judging me.
We got to get you worked up. Well, that's all right.
Yeah, I just want to be stronger.
Good. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so important. Yeah. Aly?
Well, honestly, my biggest takeaway from the entire show, and I personally don't think I judge people a lot. I really don't.
We all do. We're all judging.
I don't think I do that bad. But one thing I have to say is there is something that was unique about every single person on that show. In that show, every one of those contestants, there was a part of them where I was like, wow, really? Or weird, or like, that's cool. So I think it just came to make me back up a little bit and think like you can find such amazing experiences out of everyone. And I thought that was
on the spot. What was your first impression of me? And let it rip.
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
I'll tell you one of my
demeanor that's probably a bit standard.
Did you tell everyone that what happened to that you got hurt?
No, I haven't told everybody that.
No. Okay. So for me, that was extremely motivating. And people will see this in the show, but watching what happened to you and then watching the next few days with some of the challenges, like unbelievable, like holy cow, like you are doing the right thing. And it was a leader. It was unbelievable. For me, that was like, I don't know, super encouraging and motivating.
Yeah, thank you.
Same. I'll just drop this, that people are going to learn that there are more than 1 million uses for duct tape.
Yeah.
They already thought they knew.
Yeah. 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 Very cool. Well, what are a few ways we can follow you guys? And we'll get this all linked up too, but so they can check out more about what you guys are up to.
So I'm at, my socials are Librerte Austin, and it's Liberty with an E.
Mhm.
So check me out on there.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I'm Aly Webster with 2 R's. So AOI Webster with 2 R's
Awesome.
on all social media.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. This was fun. And so happy to have had that experience with you. And I hope we definitely continue to stay in touch. But thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Same. Bye, guys.